Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take sources you send us and, well, we really get into them, pull out the most interesting bits.
Mhm.
Today, we're looking at an article from Brazil, actually, about how sommeliers and waiters there are kind of transforming the wine experience.
Right. Moving beyond just, the technical stuff.
Exactly. Forget the super dense descriptions. It's all about using storytelling.
Yeah, the article argues that shifting to these, engaging narratives makes the whole thing better for the customer. And, interestingly, it seems to help boost wine sales, too.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then. Figure out why these stories work better than just listing off facts. How does telling a story about a wine make for a better night out for you, the diner, without making your head spin with technical terms?
Well, let's start with the problem the article really flags. It's that reliance on technical wine language.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there, right? You ask for a recommendation and you get it.
It's a dry Cabernet Sauvignon, and maybe that's it.
Right, and you're left thinking, okay, and the article points out these terms, tannins, malolactic fermentation, even things like tertiary aromas.
Yeah, they're barriers, big barriers, not just for customers who, let's face it, often don't know what they mean.
Or care.
Or care, exactly. But also sometimes for the staff serving the wine, it kind of creates this distance, this exclusion.
It's interesting. The article actually brings up a study, I think it was Davis and Charters from 2006.
Oh, yeah. Building Restaurant Wine Lists, a study in conflict, that one.
Right, and it talked about this tension, didn't it? Between restaurants wanting to offer familiar wines people know and, trying to get them to try something new.
Exactly. And if the staff can't bridge that gap effectively, if all they have are technical terms, they might not even fully grasp themselves.
Then people just stick to what they know. Or, like the article says, maybe pick the second cheapest option because they feel unsure.
It makes sense. If the person helping you can't connect the wine to you in a way you understand, you're probably not going to risk it on something unfamiliar.
And the article really digs into why staff might rely on those rote technical bits. Often it's just down to the training they receive.
Traditional training often focuses heavily on, say, the mechanics of service, taking orders, clearing plates.
The operational stuff.
Right. And less on really getting to grips with the wine list in a meaningful way. And even when wine is covered, it's often those abstract, technical concepts.
The kind of stuff you forget almost immediately after the training session, right?
Pretty much. It's like trying to learn a language just by memorizing grammar rules without ever actually, speaking it.
And the article makes another really important point here.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, the waiters haven't actually tasted the food they're serving with the wine.
Or even many of the wines themselves.
Exactly. So you end up with these super generic recommendations. The classic example they give is, oh, this red goes with red meat.
Which tells you almost nothing. I mean, think about the difference between, say, a big, bold Cabernet Sauvignon and a light, fruity Gamay. Both red, both technically go with red meat, but they offer completely different experiences.
Totally different. So, okay, that's the problem. Technical talk, lack of real connection. What does the article say are the negative impacts for the customer?
Well, the first big one is just a lack of personalization. That generic recommendation feels totally disconnected from what you might like, or the specific dish you ordered, or even just the mood of the evening.
Yeah, it makes the whole thing feel kind of transactional, doesn't it? Not special.
Exactly. And that leads to the second point, insecurity. If you don't get good guidance, you feel unsure.
So you play it safe.
You play it safe. Pick something familiar, or, as the article notes, something cheaper because you're afraid of picking the wrong expensive wine. You miss out on exploring.
Which limits your whole experience, really. You never discover that new grape or region you might absolutely love.
And the third consequence, maybe the biggest, is that the wine experience just becomes, superficial. It's just a drink.
Instead of something more.
Right. It loses that potential to really connect with the meal, with the place, with the story behind it. You miss out on making the dining experience genuinely memorable, maybe even emotionally significant.
Okay, so the technical approach falls short. Let's get into the solution. The article champions storytelling. Why are stories so much more effective than just facts and figures when it comes to wine?
Well, it's fascinating, actually. Stories connect with us on an emotional level. The article points out they actually light up parts of our brain linked to empathy, feeling, and, importantly, memory.
Ah, so when you hear a story, you're more likely to remember the wine.
Exactly. You connect personally. It makes the abstract, like wine characteristics feel more tangible, more real,
It's a neat idea, like instead of just saying a wine has soft tannins.
which means very little to most people.
Right. The article suggests framing it as, say, this wine tells the story of a family that's been tending these vines for 3 generations. Suddenly it's got history, it's got people.
It instantly creates that human connection. It moves beyond just what it tastes like and taps into something deeper. It simplifies things too, but in an engaging way.
And it brings in culture, doesn't it? Stories about the place it comes from, the traditions involved, the actual people who made it. It humanizes the whole thing.
Absolutely. It stops being just a product on a shelf or a line on a menu.
The article gives some great examples of this. I like the one about the Tuscan Chardonnay.
Oh yeah, the Rossi family, making wine since 1890 using French techniques.
It adds that layer of heritage, of craft. Makes it sound special.
Or the one about the Chilean wine that was supposedly Pablo Neruda's favorite, describing the aromas like a sunset over the vineyards.
That's evocative. It paints a picture.
It really does. And even simpler analogies, like comparing a Sauvignon Blanc to walking through a citrus orchard in spring. It just makes the taste profile instantly understandable and appealing.
It connects the senses to something familiar and pleasant.
That's the key. Sensory and emotional links.
So how do you actually build these narratives? What makes a good wine story, according to the article? It mentions emotion, curiosity.
Connection.
Uh-huh.
Those are crucial. But it breaks it down into elements. First, there's the origin.
But not just, like, France.
No, more than that. What's special about where it's from? Are the vineyards right by the sea? Are they on incredibly steep slopes? You paint a picture of the place.
Okay, the terroir, but made interesting. Then production.
Yeah, but again, skip the heavy technical stuff. Maybe mention the grapes are handpicked at dawn, or the wine is aged in really old traditional barrels. It gives a sense of care, of tradition.
And the people are key, right?
Oh, absolutely. The passion of the winemaker, maybe it's a family business passed down for generations, that adds authenticity, that human touch.
Makes sense. What else?
Translating the actual sensations. This is where it gets creative. Instead of just firm tannins, the article suggests something like it feels like a firm, welcoming hug.
Huh. I like that. And acidity.
Maybe like a refreshing dip in the sea on a hot day.
Yeah.
It's about finding those relatable feelings.
Things people understand viscerally.
Exactly. And finally, linking it to moments. Suggesting a wine is perfect for a birthday celebration or a cozy family dinner.
Right. Connecting it to life experiences. So you weave all that together. Origin, production, people, feeling, occasion.
When you get a complete narrative, like their example of the family vineyard in southern Italy, making this traditional red that's just perfect for those big Sunday lunches, it transforms the recommendation.
It's not just a suggestion anymore. It's an invitation into an experience.
Precisely. It becomes memorable.
But of course, not everyone wants the same story or the same level of detail. The article talks about adapting, right?
Definitely. You need to read the customer, tailor the language.
So they give an example. For someone maybe looking for something easy drinking, casual.
You might describe a white wine as like taking a refreshing walk through a citrus garden. Perfect with that fresh fish we have today. Light, evocative, connects to their food.
Simple, direct. But for someone who seems a bit more knowledgeable, a wine geek, perhaps.
Then you can maybe lean in a bit more, use slightly more descriptive language. The example was a Pinot Noir, wasn't it?
Yeah, something about layers of complexity from slow aging in French oak, like a real orchestra of flavors.
Right. It acknowledges their interest, uses language they might appreciate, but still keeps it engaging, not dryly technical.
So the core story stays, but the delivery changes.
Exactly. It's about making that connection whoever you're talking to.
Okay, this all sounds great, but it obviously relies heavily on the staff being able to do this, which brings us to training. The article stresses customized training is key.
Yeah, and having the right kind of instructor. Someone who can actually take a technical sheet and turn it into a captivating story.
Not just read out the alcohol percentage and the grape varietal.
Please, no. The article outlines 3 really essential things for the instructor. First, obviously, solid wine knowledge. Not just technical stuff, but the context, the culture behind the wines.
Sure, gotta know your stuff.
Second, real storytelling skills. Being able to build a narrative, use language that's accessible, but also, stirs some emotion.
Makes sense.
And
Third,
good teaching skills, didactics, engagement, knowing how to adapt to the team, using practical activities like maybe giving them a fact sheet and having them improvise a story on the spot. Visual aids help too.
So it's active, not just passive listening.
Right. And a good instructor, the article says, can pick out those little memorable details for each wine. Maybe it's made by a female producer who overcame challenges, or the unique soil really shapes the taste, and use those as hooks for the stories.
So the goal isn't just staff who can describe wines.
No, it's creating a team that can craft these really immersive experiences. It's a shift in mindset.
Okay, so for a restaurant manager listening, or even just a waiter wanting to try this, what are some practical first steps? Any tips from the article?
Yeah, it offers some good starting points. One simple one is just to use what you already have. Look at the wine label, the packaging, even the technical sheets you might already get from suppliers.
There might be story nuggets in there.
Often, yeah. The example given is for an organic wine. Just pointing to the label and saying, see this picture? This wine is grown without any pesticides, really respecting that land. It's simple, tangible.
Connects the bottle in their hand to a practice they might value. Okay.
Another tip is to encourage curiosity, both in the staff and by using questions with the customer. Instead of just stating a fact, maybe ask something intriguing.
Like?
The article suggests something like, did you know this wine has been made by monks up in the Alps for like 500 years? It draws the customer in, starts a conversation.
Makes it less of a sales pitch, more of a shared discovery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, continuous training. Keep it going. Short, frequent sessions are better than one massive info dump.
Like a little daily challenge.
Yeah, maybe. Like, okay, team, today's challenge. Summarize the story of this award-winning Chilean Carmenere in 30 seconds. Keeps it fresh, keeps them practicing.
Makes sense. So wrapping this all up then, the big takeaway here really seems to be that storytelling isn't just fluff, it's fundamentally reshaping the wine experience in restaurants.
Absolutely. It elevates the whole interaction. Waiters who can do this well aren't just serving drinks, they're acting as guides.
Taking you to the vineyard, introducing you to the winemaker, metaphorically speaking.
Right. Turning a simple sip into something much richer, a sensory journey with meaning.
And for you, the customer, hearing those stories changes how you perceive the wine. It's not just fermented grape juice anymore. It's got history, people, passion behind it.
It deepens the whole dining experience. And in a tough market, restaurants doing this well are really setting themselves apart. They're not just selling food and drink, they're selling memories, experiences.
Because, as the article nicely puts it, wine is made of more than just grapes. It's people, places, passions.
That human element, brought out by the story, is what connects.
It really is. Which leaves us with a final thought for you, our listener.
Where else, maybe outside of wine or restaurants, could this power of narrative, of storytelling, be used to forge deeper connections and create more meaningful experiences?
Something to think about.